starting now. Mega live, going live every week. Fresh. Mega live. Keep it real, wherever you are. We won't be far. See you there.
And so here we are. It is now officially Friday the 17th, and it's 11 in UK, it's 12 in Denmark. And Kevin, you brought your Kevin Mega mug, and me and Peter have the blank one. A very big welcome to you all to this LinkedIn live shows. I have today, together with Kevin Steele, invited my co-founder and the CEO of Mega, Peter Hauge Jensen. So welcome to you all. We have record high numbers today, about 180 plus registered to watch now or watch later when we will send the episode out again. So thank you for joining. This year is a summer edition, Kevin, because normally we talk with the leaders in the collection industry, and today I brought my old dear friend with me, and that's actually a big highlight, I think, because me and Peter go over 20 years back building multiple companies together, and now we are building our dream MEGA.AI. So welcome to the show, and Kevin, could I please let the word be to you to as moderating this little session for the next 30 minutes?
Yeah, you're already stealing all my thunder, Martin, which is I have to deal with already. So I think what we'll start off with, because not everybody's familiar with Peter, certainly Martin's had plenty of airtime in the 13 or 14 episodes we've done so far. So I think it's probably worth, Peter, just introducing yourself and telling us, how you've managed to stick with this guy for 20 years.
Yes.
And what is the attraction?
Yeah. So let me start with the latter. So as you mentioned, I've known Martin for 20 years. And Martin always says, I'm not good at, a lot of things. I'm good at one thing. But that thing I'm really, really good at. And I have to give him that. So he is like a natural within sales, and he really understands the customers. So, and then you adopt. Yeah, no, that's fine. I think we complement each other really, really good. So I'm Peter. I'm 51. I live in Denmark together with Martin. Not together with Martin, but in Denmark with Martin. And I have a background in the call center industry. So I used to be CEO for the largest Danish outsourced call center operation, doing technical support for broadband companies, doing technical support for Microsoft, but also large customer service operations for telcos, etc. So that kind of company. And then 10 years ago, I really wanted to build my own companies. And this is where Martin come in. And together we built a company within the KYC space, which was extremely cool. And we very quickly become the dominant player here in Denmark. And then we sold it to a very large Norwegian company. I also built another company, also within call center operation. So it's really cool. And now we're building Mega together, which is
it's very interesting. As you said, Peter was the old CEO in one of the largest contact centers for inbound, and I used to do outbound, and we met each other back in that days. And I think that's actually why I think when we sat down after we saw the old company we built, the KYC was sold to a big Norwegian IT company. We sat down and said, what do we need to do together now? What should we use our life to? And it was so nice to see this 20 years plus also experience with our friendship is one thing, but also experience from the call center industry that we actually love so much. So I think that was when you have used so much time in your life in some sector, and now you're building a product that serves that sector. I think that's the cool part of it.
And that's probably a good intro into why did you move into debt resolution from that background, and probably a slightly deeper dive into why you chose to be an AI fintech. Were you sort of pioneers ahead of your time, or did you see that as a sort of natural direction of travel from what you were seeing within sort of heavily human orientated businesses? And you've done that, Martin, in several countries, and I think Peter as well. So interested in your thoughts on why debt resolution and your thoughts on coming into this AI space.
It actually starts, it starts like 7 years back or 8 years back when we have a common friend who said, most calls could actually be generated by AI. the technology wasn't ready at the time. So we kind of waited for the technology to be ready. And when ChatGPT came, we kind of saw, okay, now we're beginning to be there. We're not there yet, but if we start now, the technology will kind of come up to us. So we kind of went that way and said, we want to do AI voice. We didn't know what industry at the time. So we kind of selected another industry to start with. And then we, I think, spent the first, 6-8 months kind of pursuing that way. And then came into a fatal conclusion that it was the wrong direction. And actually within 30 minutes took a very hard decision to throw like 8.
I must
10
say, it was a very hard decision in that day in Taastrup, because we closed 10 contracts with some large sales companies that did meeting bookings, etc. And then, as you said, and you were touching about, Kevin, also, we found out that sector was simply not correct, because it didn't work. Voice AI for sales call and meeting bookings call didn't work out there. So we had to just cancel those 10 contracts and then found another industry to go after. And
I suppose that's a really interesting topic there, particularly where you're doing probably unsolicited calling to moving into much more structured, with regulatory oversight and the like in solicited engagement. So once that sort of moment of truth came around, what sort of inspired you to come into that sort of heavily regulated space? There must have been some thinking around that, because it presents challenges, but at the same time presents a lot of opportunity in the way you've gone about deterministic type approach versus probabilistic. Just tell me a little bit more about that, and where people like Morten Niels came in, the clever guys that sit behind the scenes.
Yeah. I think to start with, we got one customer within debt collection, and then we actually thought this is a really, really good use case. It's a good use case for the company, but it's also a good use case for the customers. So the customers actually call in, and here we actually are calling to an AI. It doesn't judge you. You can actually have like a conversation with it. And you don't have to feel ashamed in any way. And it's a call that you actually need to take. And there's a reason why you're calling, or you're calling in, or we're calling out. So there's a reason why the call happened in the first place. So it's actually legal to have the call in the first place. And the customer sooner or later needs to address the issue, right? But also from the company, I think it makes a lot of sense, because there's a lot of repetitive tasks, especially all the very heavily compliance work that needs to be done, especially in the beginning of the conversation. And that is something that is like the gatekeeper for the rest of the conversation. So if we could kind of really nail it down and actually do the first part of the conversation really, really well, and make sure that we didn't have any compliance breaches at all, then we could move into the second part of the conversation.
And I think just to add something to it, and you can say, because I think it's a very important lesson, and I think that also makes sense. Why did sales call not work? If you want to sell something to somebody, you probably need to invest human, time into that. And that's also where humans are strong. Humans are strong in the negotiation, in the understanding, in the emotion, in looking and seeing and hearing how people are, and then move that direction. And I can see also in general in collection, when you look at some of our clients, Kevin, and the ones that you are working with, up to 60-70% are actually self-service themselves now. So that non-judgment, that you don't want to have that call again. You don't want, because people in debt often also owe money other places, so they have to tell the same story many times. And I think that is where it fits in, because it's about finding solutions, and it's about having a customer that might not be in a good mood to actually tell that story to a debt collector again and again and again. So that's why I think that use case was so strong. And then maybe kick it off a little bit, Kim, because Peter, Kevin said something. Why are you building in that compliant environment? I actually also sometimes ask myself, why did we do that from the beginning? Because we did it before, also with the KYC company. And Kevin, you introduced us a long time back to a guy from BPO collection called Barry, and he said, Peter, Peter and Martin, you need to have this certification, this certification, this certification, this and this and this and it just kept going like that, and that became, I think, and I hate to say it, but I became to love compliance because it became a competitive advantage. And I think when you build something in a very difficult environment, you also set the bar really, really high. That's super difficult, it's super expensive, it's super everything, but it's also where the rest don't want to be. Our competitors in the market probably
Yeah, I mean, if I just reflect when I came on the advisory board with Chris Warburton in December 24, I think it was, and we were looking at your opportunities, which were plenty, but then looking at some of the challenges you face to get something over the line, and it's changed our approach to go to market, which is actually dealing with the compliance layer, making sure you've got your defense in early, as it were, with a football analogy. Particularly then where we've looked at things like data protection, we've looked at the AI emerging rules, and I've been very heavily involved in that with sort of AI and financial services. And the first couple of clients worked with us incredibly well, very supportive. But what it's meant now is a lot of the workshops we now run, the work you do, Peter, when you go and visit people, is to make sure we tackle that right at the beginning, to make sure whether the firm is actually ready. Do they have some of the governance policies in place? Have they thought about the challenges, particularly data governance? So I think, that period between December and where we are now has taught many valuable lessons in terms of compliance is integral, but it shouldn't stop innovation or the ability to do something. So just going to raise one thing to bring into the next question. I commented this week on a report by the Treasury Committee on financial inclusion. And what that commented on was there's lots and lots of low-scale pilots running around. Very few of them are scaled. And I'm very interested in your views, given your background, that we operate in a world of scale and what that requires in terms of thinking outside of the box when you're going to be dealing with very, very large numbers of individuals versus running little niche pilots that may never actually see the light of day in the real world.
I actually see it a bit differently because it's very easy to scale if you don't try to do everything. So if you try to do one thing and do that really, really good, it's much easier to scale, right? So in our case, we say to all customers, we don't necessarily want you to go and do everything in the call. Let's start with the ID&V. Let's start with the call recording disclosure. And then because we only take that part of conversation initially, then we can actually scale that. And that can be scaled extremely quick. And we can see that also on existing customers. So I actually think that this is highly scalable. I just want to, before Martin, you come on, I also want to say another thing. We love operation. So we have another approach, I think, which is that we're not necessarily just a software platform giving our customers access to AI agents they can build for themselves. We are actually there when we implement it. I am present often when we launch. We are having a hyper period afterwards where we really deep dive into what needs to be done in order to optimize. And I just love that process. So I think because it's very, we come from operation, we love operation, we understand operation. I think we have a different approach. And then you could say, okay, but that's probably not scalable. And I actually tend to agree on that, unless two things. One, you pick customers, which we already are working with, that actually has a lot of volume. Then it's in the same process that we are scaling, like what I just said. And then I think the other thing is we actually are really looking into how can we replicate what we're doing with AI tools. So for instance, we're doing waterfall analysis. So if we, for instance, look at all customers that are not verified in an ID&V process, we really, really want to understand why did that happen? And to start with, that was a manual process. Now it's an automated process where the AI is actually looking through all calls and come back with, this is actually what happened. And then the analysis becomes much, much easier. And now we can actually talk about how to solve it instead of doing all the manual work.
But what you are saying there is also that operational background, and it demands actually one thing is that we have it. The whole mega company has it. We all of us been working together for years. We all come from operation. It's not only me and Peter. We are a big team here, but we all come from that world. But it demands actually something where we can see that success are coming. It is a collaboration with our client, a deep collaboration over a long period. We are speaking daily with operation managers. We are speaking with analytic people in the company, also of course CEO, C-level, etc. But when you have the company, your customer going on board to get it is a partnership. I think a lot, Kevin, to answer your question also, a lot of these projects stall because some guy in the company got a good demo, it looked good, then they get access to a platform, they need to try themselves to do something while they are running an operation. And the secret lies in the details. It's all those small tweaks you need to do to get that performance up. So I think if you don't have a plan, and I also see companies out there that don't have a plan, that doesn't involve their staff properly enough in the process. So it is a project where you need to have buy-in from your whole organization. I did a video yesterday where I said, it's the CEO's responsibility not just to talk about it on a whiteboard or on a big project, to involve and make work groups and involve all the way down, Kevin, to the person that is one of the most important on the phone taking collection call. They need to love it also, so you don't get resistant towards it, but you get buy-in from your organization.
So I'm going to focus on 2 points now. One of those is that, and probably draw on your experience operationally dealing with human beings at scale. But secondly, you pick the UK as one of your spearhead markets, where vulnerability and affordability are very, very topical, and they are mainstream, with the Financial Conduct Authority indicating over 50% have some form of additional support need. And you've adopted that theory, particularly around tell us once, particularly around tailoring service, very strongly. How do you see changing attitudes around AI won't take my job? How do you work in this environment, particularly where it may be AI assist first before you look at things you can fully automate, and this whole inclusive design approach that says we do need to find better ways of doing things like affordability assessments, where you talked about online portals, but also then looking at how you deal with more complex cases where it's not just human in the loop, it's well designed, that the human and the AI have got to work in synchronization together.
Yeah.
So my view on that is that obviously what we will see is that AI will take a larger and larger part, but it will often take the larger and larger part of repetitive, tasks, which again mean, because the big problem in the industry is employee churn, right? So attrition. And that happens also because they are actually doing a lot of tasks that is not necessarily fulfilling. And we will kind of take all that, from the get-go, and then we will start from there. Obviously, what we will see now, you mentioned income and expenditure, which is a bigger process and a more strict process. And we will see that we will go in and take some of those. However, that will free up time to actually look at all the difficult stuff, the stuff that actually get you excited because it's difficult, and you need to figure out a good solution. So I think, that is what's going to happen over the coming period.
But I just want to add also that when we had our big call centers, I had 600 people when I was on top in 6 different locations. And to be honest, these young people coming in, for a lot of them, it's just it's a job where they are temporary. So and that's why you have big churn in the industry. So I actually think also there is so many skilled humans sitting in those positions that have years of experience of customer dialogue, complex dialogues, which are super important. I see a market where probably in my old call centers, we had 10 new people starting every Monday. And to be honest, half of them didn't last 2 months. It was sales jobs, and it was hard, and it is hard. It is a brutal job. So I think it's also about the industry will change, where those people that was just moving in and out of that industry, they will probably not be there anymore. They were probably not meant to have that job anyway. And then you have the rest. And I think that will give a more dynamic company in general, because you don't have that swing door effect, people coming in and out. So I think it's a positive thing. But as I also said, and then I'll let you go, Kevin, further. As I also said yesterday, if you're an employee that sits there, you need to train them in using AI, because if they don't know how to use AI to do their job, I think they are in danger of replacement down the line.
Yeah, I mean, going back to my little compliance theme, I've talked a lot about this, wearing various hats that I wear. One of them at the moment is to think about, your AI governance policy for your organization. Two is, this rising theme of consumers having an AI personal assistant, so they're becoming more savvy, so you need employees that are dealing with them. But thirdly, what I would regard as unsanctioned use of AI by firms, employees in firms using generative AI to respond to complaints. And sometimes that free-for-all creates chaos, and I think what we've looked to do is try and provide very clear structure that where you're looking at AI deployment at scale, that you are now examining sort of the governance policies, the type of clients you're engaging with, and also what are you doing within your own organization? Is this sanctioned or unsanctioned use of different AI tools? Now, I'm going to just develop that further, because some of the growing markets we're working with are BPOs that are offshore. So going back to the sort of vulnerability theme, often unfamiliar with the sort of UK drive in that space. And probably the other interesting area before we get on to the finale today, where we talk about roadshows and going abroad, we are now working in Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, Spain, North America on it. Do you see now that you're dealing with a lot of groups that some of the work that we've done in particular markets is going to really pay dividends around some of the more, advanced areas, particularly around affordability and vulnerability?
Yeah, for my part, yes, definitely. Martin?
Yeah, I think so, and I think actually UK is a good driver. We often talk about all the regulatory things also in the UK market, and that's not counting in Europe, in Germany, in Holland, in Denmark, or any other things. But I think it will follow, and I think the complexity and all the learnings we got from UK. I actually think, and we talk a lot about vulnerability, and we talk a lot about income and expense, and is it affordability checks. Is it something you need to do by law, where UK have set a standard that is quite high? But I think it's for me, I often use all these regulatory things coming in the UK market to actually make a better and smoother customer journey. And I think you should not see it as something you need to do. It's a little bit that I hear that when I talk to Germany and other countries. Oh, this like GDPR, new stuff or new things. But if you turn it around, it can be a very positive engagement tools to actually understand your clients better. And Kevin, just want to say one time, the first time you and me had an event up in Gögen Tower, Peter was there, Johnny Timson, he said to me that the best way to profile any consumer customers in the world is to understand their vulnerabilities. It stuck with me, and that's what I think we can bring out to the rest of Europe and the world, those things, that it's actually something that is positive for reaching better results in what you do.
I just want to go back to a little bit of reflection here I've been out to Taastrup a couple of times, and you take me out on the town a few times as well. You've now moved offices into central Copenhagen, but let's just talk about where you've gone, where the humble beginnings of the operation to your ambition and what you've been doing. So I know we featured in the bulletin and the newsletter your trips out to North America and elsewhere. So just a little bit of reflection first on, the origins in Denmark and where we've got to today and what's next.
Yeah, Peter, start up.
But yeah, that's very interesting, because I think, coming from Denmark, which is such a small country with like 5 million inhabitants, we knew from the start that we could never kind of run an operation out of Denmark. So we needed to kind of look broader. And for us, UK was really, really interesting. So we actually, from the very beginning, looked at international clients from US, from UK, etc. Even though we were just 2 persons at an office. So very, very early, we kind of set that. And we also said, let's talk to some of the biggest companies and see what problems we can solve for them. So we very early got access into a lot of big customers, and also on the compliance that you mentioned, Kevin. I think there's another angle. I think normally you say like an AI company, it's difficult to come out of Europe. It's like much easier to do it in US instead. I think, coming out of Europe, we actually had the mindset that we need to be compliant, from the get-go, which is kind of laid the whole foundation for the company, trying to build deterministic, conversations where we cannot hallucinate our way into a regulatory breach. But I think, from the very beginning, we looked global, and then, I think the biggest issue we launched, the first version and got a lot of criticism. And I think, and that was like 1.5 years ago. And then we went back and said, okay, if we really want to dominate this market, we needed to really rebuild everything. We need to own the infrastructure. And we kind of need to control every part of the conversation so we can determine what we are going to do here. And then we kind of rebuilt everything. It took a lot of time. It took like 8 months to really nail down and perfection the IDMB phase, because that's the gatekeepers for the rest of the conversation.
Okay.
So I think,
tell me a little bit, Peter, because on part of this journey, you involved the partnership collaboration with Carnegie Mellon University in the States, and the value of having that sort of academic input as well as more practical commercial innovation on it. What was your thinking there?
So we were very, very fortunate to have Dr. Anders Øland joining us as an AI officer. And he kind of was the first one actually deciding to go the deterministic way and kind of put in the whole structure for that infrastructure. And he was a doctor from Carnegie Mellon, so we kind of had like ties directly into the top of Carnegie Mellon on the whole voice part, which was kind of the thinking here. Let's see what we can do in terms of adopting some of the learnings and the technology and access to talent that we can actually see through Carnegie Mellon.
Just also here in the end, Kevin, some of the things that I love with starting up in the UK market is all the things that are not counting in other. I think, Kevin, you and me had a quote. You talked with another person, said, oh, there's another company having success out in Asia or in Pakistan or something where the regulatory landscape is not like that. So I love that Mega started our journey in one of the hardest markets. That also led us to our roadmap that is coming up now, where some of the roadmap that you have been a lot involved in is, of course, our collaboration with IE Hub and with IE in the Canadian market, with Dufty Data, etc., where we begin to say, how can we solve that new regulation, and how can we make a solution where we do income and expense check and do more complex scenarios. That's one. How can we spot better vulnerable signals? And all of those things are some of the parts of the roadmap that's coming out. Some of the things that we are releasing also is the possibility to build your own deterministic workflow. I just want to say again, deterministic workflow means 0% hallucination. It means 100% compliant workflow. And that's some of the things that we are launching here after the summer also.
I think the latency thing is also very important, but we've got 2 minutes left. I'm going to let you do the talking, Martin, because there's some important stuff coming up that you want to talk about. And it involves aeroplanes, and it involves presentations and a lot of others. So over to you, Martin, on the finale.
Yeah, 2 minutes left. I just want to say, while you are here, Kevin, both for me and Peter, you have been a crucial part of our journey to get here. We are super happy for that. We have started in UK. You have been a crucial part of our success over there. We are now going, and we, as you said, have customers in Germany, Holland. We are now going global. We have global, but we are now going full global. So I want to play a little video. So maybe give a little teaser, and then it's just 1 minute, and then finish it off afterwards with you. So let's play a little video and a teaser for what's coming up in Mega's journey the next 6 months.
They said it couldn't be done. They said we were crazy. So we built it anyway. 12 cities, 4 continents, 1 mission. No sales pitch, no fluff, no ordinary events. Join us. Global tour. Let's go. New York, Chicago, Dallas, Los Angeles, Toronto, Manchester, Frankfurt, Berlin, Amsterdam, Madrid, Warsaw, Sydney. 480 plus C-suite leaders. One room, zero noise. This is Mega Mayhem.
What a brilliant end, Kevin, to the conversation. This is our world tour coming up. I will not say a lot more now. I will encourage you to watch the internet, watch LinkedIn, watch everything you normally watch. Soon more information will come and you will see Mega in a city near you in the rest of the year. With that said, Kevin, any last word before we kick it off?
I don't think so. I'm looking forward to boosting my air miles a bit, but I might even get a trip to mainland Europe out of this at the moment by the sound of it. But
We're looking forward, Kevin, to the journey. Thank you, Peter, for joining us today. Thank you for you watching out there. It was amazing to see you all. Have a fantastic Friday, a fantastic weekend, and enjoy the summer. LinkedIn Live, Danish and Coffee will be back sooner than later. Have a good one.
Bye.